Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and I'm joined by a very thoughtful Mike Jones. Hello, Mike.
Thoughtful, yes. Only I'm not doing the thoughtful pose. Dale's doing the thoughtful pose. And
Right.
tonight, as you can see on his screen, he wants to gripe about his inability to log into Facebook.
No, no. Tonight, something that Mike mentioned to me, he says, "Well, this whole thing about cable TV and watching the meetings on cable. I mean, who's watching that anyway? There's probably just like two people." I will tell you, from what we can gather, the total number of people who are watching the commissioners' meetings, like the weekly business session, that's the only one that's now currently on cable TV. The total number of people that are watching that, compared to those who are watching our show, okay, is on a daily basis, we have easily 10 times the audience of what's on the people who are watching the weekly business session on cable TV. By the end of the month, no exaggeration, we have 100 times more people watching this show and only this show than they do for their month. Okay. So, as Mike correctly points out, it's kind of a boring topic. I mean, yes, they're being sort of dumb about this. But what I just said to him was, well, now, wait a minute. Anytime that we see some kind of meeting, and Simon Hare or this guy right here, Keith Heck or Cheryl Walker, just takes the oddest stand, and you go, boy, that's a really strange thing to say. That's the time to pay some kind of attention and say, really? Now, what's behind that? In this case, here's a picture of Keith Heck kind of losing it because he's out at a meeting in the Illinois Valley that's not recorded. They don't take any minutes. They're talking about county business with a quorum, sometimes all three commissioners. They don't record a word. They don't write down any notes that they share with us. And we're the only record of what happens. Well, no wonder Keith Heck feels free to kind of lose it and jump all over me. See what he's doing in this picture? Well, they don't want that kind of thing broadcast out there for you to see. It's bad enough that we tell the story. They anything they have control over, they don't want people to see that. They don't want people talking about it. It's a tragedy if you watch this show. So here they are taking this really unusual stand about cable access, about our access to their meetings. Mike, what's your general feeling about this? Because I know you have some strong feelings about it.
Yeah, boring. That's what my general feeling about the topic of public access and whether or not they want to continue with the contract, I find to be boring. The one thing that is a little bit interesting to me is there's money involved here, and it's $200,000 over the next 10 years for the cable company pays the county for this public access stuff. And all they have to do is provide 8 hours of programming per week. Is that correct? 8 hours
That's correct. That is correct.
And some of that can be replays of, but they're generating, easily. I don't know if it's totally 8 hours, but every week that they're generating, but they're generating pretty close to that. And, you could replay the last week's one as well. This is something that the city's been doing for a long time. If you go on the RVTV, you can get their live feed online, and in many cases they're replaying, the two most recent meetings. The city council meetings are a little bit longer, and so they're probably fulfilling their 8 hour, getting pretty close to it with that. But the bottom line is they do generate enough to do that. And why would you not just put that stuff out there and take the $200,000. I don't think that this takes very much time. Now, maybe the people in IT have given them some sort of a snow job that, oh my God, this is going to take hours. It's a trade-off, or you're even losing money on the $200,000 over the next 10 years, which, believe me, is total BS. That's not true. A very, very simple operation to program 8 hours per week. And listen, they have a vast archive. They could replay stuff from the last 3 or 4 weeks if they wanted to. And it would certainly be current enough to keep people informed about what's going on in local government. So why they don't do that, I don't know. And apparently we're going to see Simon Hare almost throwing a temper tantrum about this.
Well, so the background behind the video, which we're going to show you, we've already led up to this, and we've been telling you about it, but I want to be sure that you could hear it in their own words. And we'll post a video about it. It's a long, blathery video with their explaining their stand. But the background on this is that Charter Cable wants to sign a renewal of a 1 decade contract, 10-year contract, and they're willing to, they know, because we've told them, that the commissioners have not been telling them the truth about what happens with cable access. Well, there are people here who are just, as the guy told me, well, they said that there weren't any people locally that were interested in putting anything on cable TV.
Yes. Well, how would they know? How would the board know? Have they asked anybody?
Because I tell them. They don't even need to ask me. I said, we would very much like to put some of your meetings without our comments on cable TV. We used to.
Oh, well, that's the answer to that question then.
We used to do that. And so when they brought this up with Wally Hicks, the last time you met with them on this subject, they said, well, we don't have to do this. They said, well, there are court cases which kind of indicate you sort of have to, and the Charter has to do this. And if they're making the time available all across the country, that it's supposed to go to PEG, Public Education and Government. It's supposed to do that. Now, why would we be worried about this? We've got a very successful show. By the end of the month, 100 times more viewers.
We are just, listen, I hate to go all Donald Trump, but we are so rich. We are making money like you wouldn't believe, hand over fist, all the endorsements. I mean, look, see the PEG thing that Dale has on there. You want to know how much we're getting for that? It's unbelievable.
Absolutely nothing. So we're not making anything off of this. When we volunteered to work with the county and we're doing all of their programming for them, I got paid absolutely nothing for that. I had to show up every night at midnight and switch over the machines. I had to physically be there. They were getting it all for free. And what's best is I couldn't even show up and make any speeches at the weekly business session because it was in the back room. It was a wonderful deal for them, all free. Well, that wasn't good enough, you see. Now, what we were doing is we were putting on all of their meetings. Hello, even the meetings where they were yelling or misbehaving or whatever, we put them all on there. Well, Simon didn't like that. He likes to have only the weekly business session on cable TV for you to see. Now, we're going to show it anyway. They're avoiding nothing. Absolutely nothing. Mike points this out. What's the whole point of this? We're still going to put up what they do. We're still going to let everybody see that.
Yeah, no. By turning down this $200,000, if what they're hoping to accomplish is not, people not having access to them, fail big time. It's not working. Because, we talk about them every night. I mean, you're about to see a video of the entire room of them. If they're trying to escape that, they're going to have to, lock Dale out of the meetings.
So what's their motivation? The motivation has to be, this is the one tiny little corner of the room that they have some kind of control over. And by gosh, they're going to squelch this, turn it off. Even if it costs, see, the total contract is $2 million. They're fussing around with they've even said, well, maybe we should work with somebody else. First of all, that's impossible. That's not going to happen. Second, don't screw around with the $2 million contract because Simon doesn't want to be on TV. Stop that. Okay.
Yeah. What if all of a sudden some CEO, says, hey, listen, I've had enough of your crap. We're done. We're pulling out of there. You want to see somebody backpedal at 100 miles an hour? That's what you'd see out of Simon. Because the outrage of the community that all of a sudden, because Simon was throwing a temper tantrum, that, the cable company backed out and left the whole place with no cable TV and internet services and all of that comes with that. The backlash against that would be pretty severe, I would imagine.
See, the commissioners were required, and charter is required all along, to enforce this thing of the people are already paying for this service that you're not giving them. If you've got cable TV, you've been paying for this forever. Since you got cable, since cable was invented, you've been paying for it. This is what C-SPAN is about. C-SPAN is about what the cable companies are forced to do by they don't put up C-SPAN, this boring channel that maybe you watch. They don't put that up out of the goodness of their heart. They're required to do so. I worked with C-SPAN. I was doing their editing and that kind of stuff. And they're required to do this. So Brian Lamb and company over there in Washington, D.C., they have to. And so they've got a couple other things because they have a monopoly and the government's protecting their monopoly. And so you pay for it anyway. The fact that the county government doesn't want you to do that, I mean, now there's a new sheriff in town over at Charter. And they're saying, look, you've never done this. You have to do it. We're requiring you to do it. And we want you, don't give us these bogus reports because the reports have been false. And they've been cheating. And they say, you got to give us real reports. Well, they don't like that. None of them like that. And they were almost ready to nix the whole deal. And then Cheryl says, well, I'll talk to him. And Wally says, I'll talk to him. And I talked to him also. Not all together in the same meeting, of course. And they're not buying this BS because they know better. Because I give them the tapes of what actually happens at these meetings, you see. And so now Cheryl comes in with Wally and everything is fine. Look, we don't have to do, so much of that reporting. It's now pared down to a bare minimum. Look, we still get the $200,000 plus our $2 million contract, Simon. We get it all. And we don't even have to comply with these rules for 2 years. We've got 2 years to get it together and play more than the weekly business session, which they used to do all the time. It's easy to do. They have the programming. Simon doesn't like it.
Well, I mean, what does he care? They're all going to be gone in 2 years.
That's right.
Or Simon won't be all the way gone, but he'll be almost gone. Hopefully he'll be primaried.
Right. That would be nice. Yeah. Out in the primary. And if you elect the right people this next time, even if he stays there, well, and he will be still there after these two other characters are gone, he's going to be minimized if they're the right people because they're going to say, look, we're going to stop breaking the law. Oh, no, don't do that. Yeah, well, we are. Look, we're going to write a letter to the federal government. Oh, we can't write a letter to the federal government saying, hey, you're breaching the contract. We're going to do that. Okay. Not that we can afford to take him to court, but we're going to write a letter. Oh, don't do that. We're going to do that. Okay. We're going to make sure that the sheriff gets that funding, the funding that came in, not the road funding, the additional $1 million that came in that they put into the general fund. We're going to talk about doing something. Oh, no, that's terrible. Well, Simon, you can object and we're going to listen patiently and then we're going to vote. That's what will happen if you elect the right people this next time around. 2 people. You got 2. See? So, he can kick up all the fuss that he wants to. I want to remain going to all kinds of meetings and flying all over the country. No, you're not going to get all that. You want to fly?
Yeah, this is an opportunity to put people in that would, to have a majority of, thought process on the board. The issue is going to be, I would be very, very careful. You're going to have to vet these people because they're going to lie to you. Keith and Cheryl both lied when they were running for office. And, I suggest very strongly that you listen to everything they say, that you go to every single event, and that we force more events so that people are out there and their ideology is out there for everybody to see because it makes a difference. We need to know this about the people that are running.
Well, let me give you an example. I was going to save it for tomorrow night when we're talking about all of us. We're all running for county commissioner. And what would you do day one, day two, hour one, hour two? What would you do? So one example, I don't have to mention the person's name, but I mentioned the other day that there are some people who don't want to take a stand about, at this time, about not voting for the next levy. Okay, would you commit that you're not going to vote or press for a levy for your first 4 years? First 4 years. It doesn't mean you never will, but you won't do it for now. And there was one of the people who did not hold up a hand. And I said so on this show, that that person did not hold up a hand. And I got a notice saying, well, didn't you see me? I was sitting right across from you. So I called that person and I said, now, I was sitting right across from you and you didn't hold up your hand. Well, I want you to tell everybody that I did. Now, I don't make mistakes about this kind of stuff. I'm not going to mention this on the air unless I'm absolutely 100% sure. I said, wait a minute. You want me to tell everybody that you did hold up your hand? Yes, I do. You want me to tell everybody that you did hold up your hand? Yes, I do. But you didn't hold up your hand. Well, no, I didn't.
Well, and I'll tell you something. Actually, this pledge is going to be symbolic at best, because
that's right.
Because the commissioners right now will tell you, well, we haven't done anything. We know that they have, been pulling some strings, but the bottom line is SOFs, cuffs, and et al. Can put levies on the ballot if they care to.
Yes, of course.
They go through the process, and there's nothing to stop them from doing that. And I'm sure that they will, because the word is out that, you can't really have your commissioner boy do that, because if he does, it will taint him politically. So the chances are, listen, so anybody who's running for commissioner and somebody asks you that question, just raise your hand, because there's no point in anybody. There's plenty of these private sector levy thumpers. You don't have to be one too. Just so you know.
All right, I'll go out on a political limb here. If Mike said, I will not support a levy, or if I said, I will not support a levy, or if you said, I will not support a levy, this is not just blathery politician talk. We mean it.
Right.
Okay. So that's different than the person. You might as well hold up your hand. I understand what Mike's saying. So do you. But it's different than people who just want to get elected. I mean, there are some folks who say, I mean no, and no means no.
Right. Yes. Yes. And rarely are we going to see those type of people. That's why it's important that we vet these people.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, unlike the vetting that was done for the Manor Development at the airport. Oh, I completely vetted them. That didn't work out so well.
Or even this last batch of commissioners, there was no vetting there. I mean, heck no, or heck yes. Sounds like a fantastic slogan. Oh yeah, heck yes. I mean, I totally get why people were sucked in by that, and and I think it was just the luck of the draw. You had two weak candidates with the Cheryl Walker against Bob Just. Those were two weak candidates. I don't care what you think about either of those candidates. They were both weak. That's why they lost, or that's why one of them lost, and the other one won by 56 votes.
62,
it was pathetic.
62 votes. That's all.
62 votes. Here's the thing. If you paint with bold colors, you'll get elected, or at least there'll be a decisive election. You'll either win hard or lose hard. And, why don't we want that? I want that personally. And you know what? Come in there, say what you think, and let the chips fall where they may. Who cares?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, what you're going to see, the only thing we ask you to remember while you're watching this video, and we'll let it play for a little bit, then at a certain point we'll stop it, okay? Because
I hope it's funny.
It's not going to be funny, but it's one of those things where you say, no, why is this happening? Here's the important thing to remember during all this video, because you're going to hear him mentioning 8 hours of programming, 8 hours of programming. I have told them, Charter has told them, that you already have that and you don't need any help from us. I mean, we're happy to donate it. You shut up, Mike. We're happy to donate it to them, but they don't need our help, because all they have to do is let me give you a quick example. Mike, you got that slide we were talking about? The picture.
Oh, right. Yes. There you go.
So we're now going to do an example of what they could do. Now, it doesn't have to be a picture of a couple of people. It could just be a slide saying the commissioners will now talk. But Mike, you did this interview with the mayor on high definition TV in a noisy atmosphere. And
Yes.
now we're just going to play back the audio. Mike, ask the question that you asked of the mayor.
Well, I mean, I started by saying, well, there's this 2% sales tax that's going to be on the ballot in November. You know, how do you think that's going to affect local business owners?
Well, Mike, just look at my face. Do you see the big grin on my face? I'm telling you, I've talked with Jim Goodwin, for example, the counselor, who said that he just can't find anyone that's paying a property tax in the city that wouldn't be totally in favor of this. He's found absolutely nobody. So what's your problem, bud?
Well, yes, but you know, my angle on that, and by the way, that exchange did not take place in this interview. But the bottom line is, I don't care who else finds that they like it. Of course, the balance of property owners are going to say, "Oh, you're going to take the $1.79 off of me," and that's the 30 pieces of silver I get to take for you know, inflicting a sales tax on the retail establishments in Grants Pass. You know, okay. You know, a lot of people are going down that road. And listen, I personally could go down that road. I own property in the city. I could directly benefit. This, you know, that retail thing, it wouldn't hardly affect me at all, because I go shopping for food or whatever in Grants Pass. And so that food is not going to cost me any more than it did before. So it would just be other items, you know. So
now that was an interesting.
But
it's the exchange is not over. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm just saying. But you know, I'm ultimately, I have to, you know, I want to live in a community that's continuing to thrive. I personally am waiting for the economy to take back off again. I need for the economy to take back off again for my business to do well. You know, I lease commercial space, so I need to have businesses that are doing well and want to do business in Grants Pass, so that I have been below market on my rents for about the last 7 or 8 years, just so that I can keep my tenants. Because this economy sucks.
He's still smiling. He's still smiling in this picture.
Yes, and the reason why the economy sucks, well, I mean, there are a number of reasons why it sucks, but it's starting to hear the tale of many of the business owners in the downtown. They're saying that things are picking up. So why would you want to saddle that with a 2% tax? Why would you know? Listen, this is basic economics. Anything you tax more, you get less of. Anything you subsidize, you get more of. Okay, so it's just really dumb. And listen, and you know, this will make you know, Dale's going to start having weird feelings all over his body when I say that Reagan proved that when you drop the top marginal rates down, that you get more money coming in than what they were getting before, when the top marginal rate was 70%. Now, not very many people were paying that, but more money was coming in with less taxes. And that means that people are doing better because they're making money. When more money is being made, then then more taxes are being paid. That's how that works, in case you hadn't figured that out.
Now,
So
Mike, I just got this weird feeling all over my body as you're
you did.
mentioning that. Yeah, yeah. Now, let's see you again, if you don't mind. But you see, my point is that was marginally interesting, and that was with a single slide. So here's
Yes. And had very little to do with this
it
conversation,
did.
by
It
the
was
way.
it's like
Yeah.
posting something and
Well,
suddenly it was talking about marijuana. But let me
listen,
make
one of the most important things that took place in this transaction here
yes.
that we haven't really talked about is I asked the mayor, what if 6 months into this thing, all of a sudden, you start seeing for lease signs going up, and people are saying, "Oh, I can't deal with it. I got to get out of here." I go, "What would you do?" And he said, "Well, that's a very good question. I think we'd let it go for a year, maybe two. After that, really." If all the squeaky wheels in town are saying, "Hey, wait a minute," and we're going to have to close our doors behind this, it's not going to work. He would let it go for another year and a half. Wow.
Well, there is that's a really good point, and there is an additional point about this, which was the original reason I asked him to put up that slide. That was interesting to listen to. Now, the commissioners are perfectly able on their own, because they audio record every meeting. They could put up a slide saying, this will be very interesting for you, or a still, or anything they want to. And they
Yes,
could
they
put
could.
that on cable TV. Now, they've been told by charter they can do that. And we will give you 200 extra $1,000 more than you get now if you'll just do that. But you watch this meeting and they'll say, what are we going to do about 8 hours of programming? We'll never, that's impossible. It's impossible. No one can ever answer that question. Look, we've got legal counsel, his assistant sitting there. We've got Simon sitting there. We've got the IT director sitting there. We've got Cheryl sitting there. We've got Keith X sitting there. I'm sitting behind a camera and I want to say something, but I can't, obviously, because you're not allowed to say anything. And this is now the second meeting where they're wringing their hands. What are we going to do about 8 hours? They've got it already. Charter's told them this. I've told them this individually, that they have the solution. Now, why do they keep saying, what are we going to do about the 8 hours? It's a ridiculous non-issue, and they're screwing around with a $2 million contract and 200 extra $1,000 that they can have anytime, because Simon doesn't want anything more than the ceremonial hour of the weekly business session to be shown. And this whole thing about, well, we don't have 8 hours is BS. Of course they have 8 hours, and everybody's told them this. So play the tape, please, Mike. Or not.
Since last the board discussed this subject, Mr. Walker and I did reopen the negotiation with Stephen Gerber, Charter, and we got a new arrangement regarding the PEG programming, and also regarding the annual PEG report that had been in the contract when last I brought it to the board. And so these are sections 13.2 and 13.4, which are, or should be, redlined or blue, one color or the other, on your copies, and we can go ahead and explain what has happened, what the difference is. So what's happened is the contract previously had required 8 hours of PEG access programming every day between the hours of 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Now the requirement has been reduced to 2. And the requirement does not kick in until after 2 years have passed from when this contract was signed. There's also a provision that allows the county to repeat the program. So it says the original showing of a program and 3 repeats may be counted toward the above calculation. And so in effect, that means that if you have, say, 2 hours, if you're filming the business session, it goes for 2 hours. Then you've got 8 hours basically covered per week. If you repeat it 3 more times, you play it once and repeat it 3 times. So the upshot is, within 2 years, the county is going to need to come up with 6 additional hours of programming to satisfy the requirements in this new provision 13.2. Right? Okay. And so, any questions about that?
No.
So far,
This is a good reduction, reasonable.
Okay.
Reasonable
okay.
numbers on it.
And of course, none of this has been agreed to. This has been what we told them we'd bring back to the board as a whole to.
Okay, I have a question before it goes on further, and maybe you know the answer to this, maybe you don't. they can have 1 2-hour programming thing and then repeat that 3 times, and that's 8 hours. Okay, so can they then also repeat weekly business sessions from previous weeks to fulfill the requirement of that current week?
Easily, yes.
And that's okay. Well, then what is the problem? See, I mean, it appears that these people don't understand, and maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe we don't know for sure that it's not required that they have original programming. And like I said, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe they do have to have original programming, and they can't. It has to be something that's. But listen, if not, if they have the ability to repeat stuff, there could be film from all kinds of different events. As a matter of fact, citizens could be submitting video that they've shot around the county, and they could put that in. Why couldn't they put that in?
Because they definitely don't want that.
Okay. But is that true though? I mean, could that be, does it have to be 8 hours of government programming?
No.
Or just 8 hours of programming?
8 hours of programming.
Okay.
We used to do that. We used to do it. It was easy. And since we were running it, when we were doing it, we were running it 24 hours a day. 24 hours. We had a boatload of programming, and it was all stuff originated here. It was nothing like the wonderful world of yarn. No, it was nothing like that. It was all stuff that was, and if we were ever to run into a problem, we'd go back and play back a budget session where they were talking about how the money is going to be spent this year. No problem.
Yeah,
somebody's going to find that interesting.
Okay.
Contemplate, discuss, and perhaps decide. And okay, I think that covers 13.2 in regards to language. And then as to 13.4, Charter has removed a requirement that was in there that required the county to report its usage, its programming usage of the PEG channel. So we don't have to do the programming report. We do, however, have to do an annual report regarding PEG expenses. And that will be turned into Charter in a format that's described in Exhibit A at the very end of the contract. There's an Exhibit A, and it has a variety of lines that ask the county for information about how it's spending.
Hey, Mike, stop it, please.
Another.
Yes.
Okay, so this is another bone of contention. They used our money to buy a bunch of equipment that was being used by community producers to do things such as, the goal was to do things like to take the Boatnik Parade and put, or the wonderful world of Illinois Valley, and put that on cable TV representing us, the county. Well, there's a problem if you're going to, now they're no longer required, you just heard them, they don't have to say how anyone's using this. They don't have to prove that it's actually public access, which is a good thing for them because it's not, okay? It's government access to you, and only this one ceremonial meeting a week, okay? But they don't want to, you'll see, they don't want to report how the public access money is being spent. I don't mean on programming, I mean how, on what goods it's being spent on. And one of the reasons for that is that equipment that we bought is now missing. Gosh, I'm sorry, you want to do access programming? The equipment's missing. We don't know where it is. Even the sheriff looked into this. Cheryl Walker told him, nobody has any idea. It had tags on it. It says property of Josephine County. It's now gone, gone, gone. Now, we found what happened to some furniture that nobody would answer. We found it because we had an inside tip. There's no inside tip on this. Nobody knows what happened. They don't want to have to report to Charter that we bought a bunch of equipment and then we deep-sixed it. They don't want to have to report to you. They don't want to have to report to anybody. This is all about transparency. Can you imagine our job, as you've defined it for us? Hey, we really appreciate that you're holding their feet to the fire, that you're holding them accountable. To do a once-a-year report would be to be a little bit accountable. Absolutely not. They're not going to do that. You watch. You'll see.
Item that John had brought up, and I asked Charter about, was the signal apparently is collected in analog format, but it goes out as broadcast as digital, or actually it gets broadcast as analog, but the rest of Charter is digital. Is that right?
Right now, we broadcast both. We can broadcast both analog and digital.
Okay.
And what Charter wants to do is get rid of the analog support. They want to go pure digital. They're not willing to go HD. So we will see some increase in the quality of picture on Charter's side. But the advantage for them is to go digital and not deal with analog connections anymore. We would have to purchase $5,300 worth of equipment to give them the signal in their codecs that they can accept for digital. The benefit is, frankly, more for them, at least in the short term, until they decide to broadcast in HD. Our picture quality will get a little better. I'm not sure that the bars on the side will go away, but there's advantages to both, let's say. So my concept was, let's throw it into the mix and see if we can negotiate what they pay for it. RVTV is kind of spearheading the effort along with Charter in order to make this digital process work for all their partners. So it looks like they've said in response, it's yours, you buy it.
That's what they said, basically, yeah. He said, quote, "We don't supply that equipment, but if your IT director has questions about what equipment is necessary or where to get a good price, we could certainly help with that." So that's his reply. If the board wanted to dig in on that, I guess we could go and, but
I personally go, I mean, that's John's bailiwick in my mind.
It was just a thought.
Yeah.
Get them to pay for something that
Sure.
supports both.
They don't want to.
Doesn't seem so.
no, they don't want to. That's,
Never pay, never hurts to ask,
no,
No.
didn't hurt to ask.
Okay.
Good. So, I have something on 10-1 for whatever reason I wrote it down.
Signature page used to be.
Indeed.
Signatures.
Yeah, when we, this is the red line, version, so thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, and the grantee shall pay the grantor an annual franchise fee in an amount of equal to 5% of the annual gross revenue. That is the, I mean, it's a pejorative way, but I mean, there's not, that's all there is. We're not having any other expected payments to come because of this, or we have to account for that, or it's 5% of the annual gross revenue.
Yes, and then there will be the PEG as well.
Right.
So there's two streams of revenue.
Yeah, right. Okay. Anybody else?
No, I don't know. I thought 13.2 was supposed to just go away. It's just got dumbed down, practically nothing.
Well, they didn't.
They weren't willing to make it go away.
Yeah, they were not willing to make it go away. They dragged their feet on
I like the
that.
contract the way it stands. I mean, that was the way I was represented last time. We're getting a pretty good deal right now.
Is 13.2, John, is that restrictive on you in any way, or is that seen as any kind of a burden on you?
I
Or?
think you're going to find in 2 years, and we have 2 years, that our BTV is going to be a better financial deal for the county to supply content.
Stop, please.
But
Okay. RVTV would be a better financial deal. RVTV was the outfit that was putting this on the air. The signal has to, I know this is maybe a little boring for some. The signal has to go from Josephine County all the way up to Jackson County, turn around and come back. What was it that RVTV did for this? Well, one of the things they did is they sold commercials on our government channel, and they pocketed the money without any report to us about what they were selling on our channel. Commercials.
Which is probably why they make it easier for these governments and not hassle them with requirements. They say, don't worry about that. We got it all handled.
Yeah, the fact that it's illegal,
yes.
That's besides the point, okay? Also,
well, you know what? Illegal is one thing, but if you're able to do illegal things and profit from them with no repercussion at all, then you'll find that people will be willing to do it. And apparently that's the case with RVTV.
Yes, and the other thing they were doing is they entered into contracts with places like ODOT, who then would pay RVTV to put ODOT programming on everybody's cable channels all throughout this Southern Oregon area, and then they would pay RVTV to do that, and they would pocket that money. And we gave them money from our money fund that was specifically set aside to buy equipment and that kind of stuff. RVTV went out and bought equipment that was superior, and then it was so superior they decided to keep that equipment that we paid them for, and then they gave us used and broken equipment in its place. I went to Steve Rich, who used to be the county attorney, and I said, you know, they literally stole from us. He said, well, you know, we still got a pretty good deal.
Yes. Awesome.
Look, I understand for a lot of people, this is one of those little, I don't ever watch it and I don't care. I don't have cable TV. Neither does Mike. Okay. So why do we care? Because this tiny little thing, as they said from the beginning, when I first started on this 10 years ago, they said, but this is a little thing. I said, so little things are easy to clean up. Yeah, but this doesn't make any difference. If it doesn't make any difference, then why are you cheating with it? Because they bring in $2 million over this contract. That's aside from the things that we're talking about here. That's a franchise fee for doing what? Turning your back.
Yes.
Not on Charter, but on the cable provider. There's a reason RVTV is no longer the provider. Well, it's very expensive. You know, it was more than just that. We were partners in crime. Now, I know that sounds like a hyperbole, but it's not. They stole from us. They sold time on our channel. I don't watch it anyway, but that's not really the point, is it? If they're cheating on this tiny little thing, then what else are they cheating on? It's a bellwether. It's the canary in the mine shaft. It is the idea that they can't even keep their hands out of this tiny little thing, and they still got to cheat everybody, and you're paying the bill on your cable bill if you have cable. So it's easy, and it's them. We're not talking about having the Dale and Mike show on cable TV. We're just talking about them blathering on about themselves. Easy to do. They don't want it. Why the heck wouldn't they want that? You know the answer why they don't want that. We don't have to play any more of this, Mike, because I know that for some people, this is kind of like more of the same. I wanted you to see part of it. You didn't really get to see Simon really dig in at his heels about this. I mean, he just said, no, no, no. And the other two just gave in because they ran the best deal that they could. They don't even have to do anything at all for 2 years. No, I don't want the money. Keep the money. Keep the money? $200,000?
Well, you know, because we're overflowing with money here. We're very rich. We're we have the top notch in all services, and we're doing great here in Josephine County. Right?
They're already producing the programs. They already are. All they need to do is put up the audio. But then here's the problem. Then you'd be able to hear. I mean, you could do it now, but you really got to jump through a bunch of flaming hoops to get there. You'd be able to hear what they're doing in the little back room. They cannot tolerate that. The other two are actually willing to tolerate all that, although when you listened to them last time, they weren't willing to. This was the best deal that they could possibly make with an outfit that's just trying to hold these guys accountable. They will not be held accountable.
The part that puzzles me is, why does Simon care? He's not doing any of these requirements. He doesn't have to fulfill any of them. All he has to do is turn to the IT guy over there and say, hey, okay, there you go.
Well, we mentioned this a bit last night. Here's what happened. Here's specifically and exactly what happened. We were videotaping all of their meetings for free, and with no comments from the public. We don't need any comments from the public, and putting them up, except for the weekly business session, there were comments from the public. There still is, okay? And we're putting them up for people to see. And there's one specific meeting where Simon was especially rude and cantankerous, right? And we played that back along with everything else. Well, he got a lot of feedback. He said so from his pals. We're saying, Simon, why are you acting like such a bad guy here? What do you mean? Well, we saw that meeting of the little back room. You saw a meeting of the little back room? Yeah. Oh, man. this is what's at the center. Oh, well, it's about autonomy. No, it's not. It's that he doesn't want you to see what happens in the little back room. If he could stop us, he would. Now, Mike,
Okay. So
go ahead.
now I've
great idea, Mike. This is great.
Now I have figured it all out.
Yes.
This is the reason why it wasn't just the normal, Josephine County's TV system at the Ann Basker. Dale was taping the backroom videos and putting that out on cable too, probably not telling them about that.
No, that's wrong. Of course I told them.
And then, so it wasn't a big deal until they started catching flack about it. And then there was a problem.
It was playing 24 hours a day. Yes, people knew what they were up to. They could hear them. But Simon, I know you said that. Well, see, they're all recorded anyway. This is the thing that Keith Heck forgot. Well, you're doctoring it. No, we're not. You're recording it. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, right. And now they're hearing everything that they're saying. Well, that's transparency. The most transparent government in the entire world. That's what Simon said. Okay. So when he says that kind of stuff and people, they're joking. Hey, Simon, we got the most transparent. Where'd you hear that? Well, they could have heard it on the audio recording, but instead they heard it with full video, color, good sound,
yes.
Pretty good sound. Well, they don't want that. This is why they won't let Mike put a tiny little microphone on the table. Oh, that's in the way. It's not in the way. Oh, you better move that camera. It can fall over and burst into flames. No, that's not the reason why. You got to get back so you can't hear as well. Go over in the corner. I'm not going to go in the corner. We're going to call the police. Call them. It's a ridiculous rule. They don't want you to see what they're doing, and that's one of the values of this show. Okay, so Mike came up with a scaling brilliant idea. Now, it's a joke.
Unbeknownst to myself, apparently.
Yes. Oh, no way. You have full authorship of this. He said, if they're willing to sacrifice $200,000 and to potentially jeopardize a $2 million contract just to keep Simon Hare off of the air, well, why don't we offer to stop videotaping them if they just pay us $1 million?
Yes, right. Yeah, and my point in saying that is clearly if what his motivation is to keep people from seeing what they're doing.
Good luck with that.
Then he's willing to pay $200,000 for something that arguably is giving them almost nothing in terms of exposure. Now, they're getting a lot more exposure by Dale taping their meetings and us playing it here on this show. So, we'd like to, I guess, formally, offer that we will stop doing this show. We'll just change the content of the show. We'll start talking about national politics.
No,
all you have to do is pay us $1 million.
We'll cover the city. We'll just
go
over and look at Grasp City.
Yeah, that's right. We'll go to the city and then we'll hit them up for another $1 million.
Oh, there you go. Like Mark Von Holly. We'll go to every
Right.
government in the area, even those who've never heard of us. How would you like it if we didn't do this?
Yes,
that might be worth
right.
the money.
No, their pockets are deeper. Their pockets are deeper. And believe me, you guys, it'll be worth it to get us off your back.
They had me in the little back room. You had me at hello. They had me in the little back room. It was perfect for them. And we were donating the time and we were doing it for free. So what's the problem? Because he did not. This was Simon's decision. He did not want you to see what they're doing, the most transparent government in the world.
So Simon, if you want to see more of this instead of us hounding you, then just pay us the $1 million, okay?
But you got to do this, Mike. You have to put your little finger up like this when you say $1 million.
Yes, $1 million.
So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is they're going to keep. Go ahead. They're going to keep screwing around with this.
Well, and then when this gal down in Cave Junction there asks who's funding us, you can say, well, that's the city and or the county. They're the ones that are paying our bills.
I'm going to go back to this wonderful picture of Keith Heck losing it here. This is great. Okay, so here's Keith Eck losing it, and what he was losing it about is I had asked a question about manner development, not a super rude question. You've seen the video; it wasn't super rude, but he just lost it. Okay, so this lady that was been saying that I'm going to find out who funds you. Well, as I said, good luck. We'd like to know. She was the one that said, well, the reason I don't like you, Mr. Matthews, do you really need a reason? The reason I don't like you is that you got up at the Cave Junction City Council meeting, yes, and you said good things about manor development, and why don't we give them a chance? And you're just, and you were advocating for manor development. I said, ma'am, we're the ones that exposed their secret plan. It was not much of a secret. It was on their website, but nobody here knew it. And the Courier's not going to do any research at all about anything like this. And we put it out there for everybody to see. And we were the ones that webcast, all of the meetings with Larry Graves. Oh, there's wonderful. It's sliced bread. No, it's not, and we need these guys and those guys to do this kind of stuff. No. And so we were leading the questions. But this lady is absolutely convinced that I personally was advocating for, and I'm going to find it and I'm going to prove it. Well, I ask her every once in a while. She pops up and I say, how's it going on that proof? Well, are you afraid? No, but I just want to advise that you talk with the doctor. I mean, it's crazy. So every once in a while, besides each other, we run into these really loony people that are just absolutely convinced. I've got you now, Luke Skywalker. Well, no, you don't, because it's totally wrong. It's totally wrong. What the?
Yeah, listen, I'm thinking maybe we should be soliciting the Koch brothers or something, because as long as we're going to be accused of being, funded by nefarious types, we should pursue, the Koch brothers and George Soros and I mean, you name there's a long list. I mean, why can't we get a few of their dollars?
Some of the people out there who are critics are so crazed. It makes you wonder if they're one of the Koch brothers. What's fueling this craziness of theirs? Are they using the stuff? What's the deal? It just doesn't make any sense. Well, I know you did. And I say, ma'am, really, none of the evidence will show. Well, I'm going to find it. Well, good luck, because in finding our funding as well. So Mike does have a funny point here, and that we could hold, it's not holding someone hostage. It's a green mail or something. We won't do this if you do that. We're not going to do that. That's obvious. We could spend more time looking at this
Dale, for crying out loud. This thing's just gaining steam here. No, Mayor. No, commissioners.
Yes.
Listen to me.
Listen to this guy.
Get this monkey off your back. Hey, listen, I need to fund my other little things that I like to do here, Dale. Come on. I mean, this gig is as lucrative as it is not going to last me the rest of my life here. There has to be something else.